I'm laughing at myself because I always dance to the intro music. You can't see that, obviously, but I'm sitting back here going, I don't know why. It's apparently something that's inbred in me. When I decide that the intro music plays, I need to dance. Maybe it's a way of getting myself revved up to go live. I don't know. Anyway, it is Wednesday, September 21st, 2022 at 3:00 p.m. And that means it is time for Women and Business. I'm really glad you're joining me today because we're going to be talking about a really interesting subject, I think, and not just because I consider myself to be an artist, but I think supporting the arts and artists is something that is so important, and I think we all need to be doing more of it. So I wanted to have a discussion about that today. And I have to say, this topic was partly brought to my attention because I read an article that said that there was a $192 billion gap in the prices of art that was created by women and art that was created by men. And they're talking about major artworks sold at auction by, major artists whose name you would know. And this really bothered me because art is art. It doesn't matter your gender when you make a painting. So why does the fact that the artist's name is Mary instead of Mario, for instance, create a difference in the price that people are willing to pay for that art? How does that make sense? And I started thinking about this, and I started thinking about the support that artists get and the fact that, sadly, like almost everything else in life, whether we want to admit it or not, sometimes things are a little easier if you are a white, straight man. And so I wanted to talk about that a little bit. And really this show is going to be about supporting artists in general, but I want to talk about maybe making a little extra effort to support the female artists or the artists of color or the artist who's gay or the one who's a lesbian or whatever it is. Support the artists who maybe need that support a little more. And that's not to say that any artist who's a straight white male isn't as worthy of support and to have his art recognized as anybody else, because that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, think about it. When you're looking for an artist to support, is there a woman out there that you can support? Is there a person of color that you can support? Is there somebody who is, like I said, somewhere on the LGBTQ plus spectrum? If there is, maybe that's the person who needs your support a little more. So it's just something to think about. And like I said, and I've said this a million times before, and probably before I'm done doing this series of shows, not this show in particular, though who knows, I will say it many more times. I'm not bashing men. I don't hate men. I don't think men are unworthy of support. I'm just saying sometimes there are other groups that need a little more support. And that's all I'm saying on that. So let's talk about ways to support artists. And the first one is really, really simple, but it's something that we don't always think about, honestly. And that is buy their work. It's really simple. And it's something that you maybe pay lip service to, but unless you need a painting or, you're really into their book or whatever, you may not want to spend the dollars. And I'll give you an example because this is one that happened to me and I found it really interesting when I started thinking about it. So back a couple months ago, we did Live Applique Getaway, which is the trade show that I'm the marketing director for. And I wanted a little, I don't even know what you call it, a purse, a bag, something that I could carry my phone in and a microphone and a pair of earbuds and, my room key and a credit card and maybe a couple tissues or something, and just something small. So I had something that I could carry with me, but it wasn't huge and obtrusive and totally getting in the way all the time. It was just a little something so I could have the things I needed with me. Because at the show, I don't have a booth. And we do have an office, but it's kind of annoying to have to always go to the office if you want to do a video or if you want to take pictures or whatever you want to do. So I just needed something small that I could just sling over my shoulder or wear crossbody, and he was just there with me. So I started looking online to see what was available. And as I was doing that, I went, oh, wait, I know somebody who makes these kind of bags. And that was Heidi Wade from Basket of Crazy. And so I messaged her and I said, hey, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I need. Can you make something like this? And we went back and forth a few times. And I told her what I was looking for and what I wanted it to do and what I wanted to use it for and all that kind of stuff. And she said, okay. And she slightly modified a design that she'd had for something similar and made it work for me. And I ended up with this, which was the color that is my color. And it's a very pretty leathery fabric and it has a really cool strap on it. And it's designed to work the way that I want it to work. And did I pay more than I might have if I bought it from some random online company? Yeah, I did. By actually quite a lot. But I was supporting a small business, supporting an artist I knew, and I also got to have a part in the creation of the thing that was made. And that's kind of huge when you think about it, honestly, because this was someone who really put some thought into Heidi. I mean, was someone who really put some thought into what I needed and what it should look like and what my taste was and what my aesthetics were and all that kind of stuff. And we came up with something really cool. Now, yeah, I paid more for it. I probably could have gotten something from, some random online company for less. But that wasn't the point. The point was I can get what I need from a fellow artist who I respect, who I know does good work, and it's a win for all of us. So why wouldn't I do that? If I have the money to spend, which I did, why not spend it with someone who's going to create something that really is a work of art? And I think we all need to be more aware of this. I think sometimes we're all busy and we all have things going on and we all have requirements for whatever it is that we're buying. And so we tend to go for the easiest option, or we tend to go for the option in front of our face, or we tend to go for the option that is, the most budget friendly or whatever it is. And I get that. I'm as conscious of my budget as everybody else is. But if you can spend a little more and support someone who is an artist and who is trying to build a career on their art, then why would you not do that? So this is the question. And I think it's an important question because I think sometimes we look at art as an indulgence. As excuse me, had a little cough there, sorry. We look at art as an indulgence. We look at it as something that, well, that's nice, but we don't really need it. We don't really have to have it. And I think the opposite is really true. Art is one of the things we need the most. And art can be painting, music, embroidery, sublimation, writing, dance, you name it. We need all that stuff. We need people doing all those things. And the only way that people can do all those things as a career or even as a hobby is if there's some kind of support for it. So, one way that you can support people is to buy their work. And I'll be honest, I'll put my hand up to this. I have bought things from people that I didn't really need and sometimes didn't even particularly want necessarily. But the thing in question was a way that I could funnel some money to them so they could keep doing what they wanted to do. And to me, that was more important than what I was getting for my dollars, if that makes sense. Now, I don't advocate that. I mean, don't go out and buy random crap that you're never going to use because that's not the point either. Hopefully, the work that people do is going to people who want it and love it and care about it. But think about it. When you decide, hey, I want new art for my living room, or gee, I'd really love to have new photos taken of my family, or wow, I wonder if someone could embroider this coat for me, or whatever it is. Think about it. Who do you know who does that stuff? Can you find someone who does that stuff? Can you go somewhere other than Amazon or the big box store? Or whatever it is that's probably going to have the lowest price, but isn't necessarily going to be in the arts as far as that goes. So it's a lot of questions. I get that. It's a lot more work to figure that out than to just go to the first thing that shows up on Facebook or Amazon or whatever. But the rewards are huge because you get to participate in the artistic process. You get to support someone who's doing what they love and who has probably put a lot of time and effort into becoming good at that thing. And you end up with something that is more uniquely you than that's uniquely yours, that isn't like off the assembly line, that isn't something you can see 50 million people having. So buy their work. That's the first thing you can do. Second one, subscribe to their online platforms, support them on social media. Like their pages, like their like their channels, their video channel on YouTube or whatever it is, like their videos, like their posts. Basically, if you can't support them with money, support them with your eyes. And again, this is kind of a no-brainer, but I think we don't think of it all the time because I will say this myself. I get a gazillion like my page please requests a week, it feels like. There's always somebody saying, will you join my group? Will you like my page? And it's flattering and it's lovely, but at the same time, I kind of feel like, I don't want to clutter everything up. And I don't want to, there are times when I feel like, how many pages can I realistically like before I can't participate anymore? And I think I have honestly gone over that limit already. Or how many groups can I belong to before it's just ridiculous and I'm never going to go to all these groups and I'm never going to participate, which for me, participation is a big thing. So sometimes I look at this stuff and I go, I don't know. But I will say this. Most of the online platforms, and Google certainly, are judging a lot of their algorithms now on reputation. And part of reputation is how many likes you get, how many people are following you, how much interaction your page is getting, how much credibility your page has, how much credibility your group has, all that kind of stuff. So there is something to be said for subscribing to people's pages, to belonging to people's groups, to just being there because it swells their numbers. And right now, meaningful interaction is part of what a lot of the social media platforms and Google are looking at. So that's a way you can help. And sometimes if you join their page or you join their group, you get an insight into how they do their work. And I personally think seeing how an artist creates what they create or does what they do is very fascinating. And so there's something to be said for that. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say join everything, like everything, because like I just was saying, there's a limit to what you can feasibly do. And there's a point where it gets ridiculous. I mean, I see people who will apply to join the Lenny Penny Facebook group, and they have 484 other groups that they're a member of. There's no way they're paying attention to any of those. I mean, realistically, there's only so many groups that you can pay attention to before it's just, this is ridiculous and what's the point? And that's pretty much what you need to avoid. You want to have meaningful interaction if you can, but when you're picking and choosing, maybe prioritize your artist friends or your people who have your business owner friends, people who are trying to make a living off their art, and help them by subscribing and giving them a little more social capital. That's all I'm saying, basically. So this next one sounds like it's basically the same thing I just said, but it's really not. And I'm going to tell you why. Help spread the word about an artist's work. And here's why that's different. Subscribing to their platforms is basically a passive action. I click a like, I join a group, and I'm just there. I don't have to do anything else ever. I just am there, and I'm part of their member count or their page like count or whatever it is. And that's all it is. It's not, there's nothing beyond that. If you help spread the word, then maybe you're sharing something on social media. Maybe you're handing out their business cards. Maybe you're sharing a page from their website on your social media profiles. Maybe you're telling people verbally what they do and how they do it. And all this stuff is, and if you can hear that, apparently the grounds people are once again doing grounds maintenance in the middle of my show, because why not? I wish they had a schedule. It would be really nice. But anyway, I'm sorry if they get loud. So I'll give you another example of why this can be important. So Lenny Penny again. Lenny Penny sells machine embroidery designs. Every once in a while, and not every once in a while, pretty regularly actually, I will see that people have shared a design or a font or something into another group that they're a member of. And when that happens, then we usually get an influx of people wanting to join the Lenny Penny group, or we can see an uptick of people buying that design. People buy things that people recommend that they trust, if that makes sense. I feel like I said that awkwardly, but that's really part of how the whole buying process works. If you have a friend and that friend says, hey, I buy designs from this company and they work really well and I really like them, then you're more likely to maybe go buy a design from that company too, because somebody you trust has told you it's good. If you're in a group and a group member that you see posts pretty regularly and seems to always supply good information, puts a post up in the group and says, hey, this really cute design is from, this page and you can get it at a sale price for a limited time, you're probably a little more likely to go and buy that design. And it's pretty simple, really, but the benefits for the person who's creating the art can be huge because you've amplified their reach. I mean, if you're an artist, one of your biggest challenges, honestly, I think anyway, is reaching people. And if you're one person, I mean, I don't know if this show is considered art or not, but I'll use this as an example. This show is just me. I produce it. I figure out what it's going to be. I do all the graphics for it. I do all the publicity for it. If it goes up anywhere that it goes up, I put it there. I've had a file of the audio version of this show, the audio version of all the shows I've done, which is like 86 shows now or something, that's been sitting around forever because I would like to put the podcast version up, but I need to have time to do it. And I only have so much time. So I have to spend time publicizing, I have to spend time creating the content, I have to spend time figuring out what the content's going to be, I have to spend time doing graphics for the content, I have to spend time setting up the feeds, I have to do all this stuff. And yeah, in the aggregate, each one of those is maybe not a huge amount of time, but you add them all together and then add in all the other stuff I do. And it's like, something's got to give here, people. So if you can help an artist publicize what they do by sharing it on your social media feeds, by telling people in the real world that you know, by I don't know. I'm trying to think of other ways to do it, and I'm sure there's a lot of them. But by taking a picture and putting it up on social media with the new cool thing that you bought, or here's this amazing piece of art, and here's where you can get it. And that's the other half of this. A lot of times we do the picture and look at this cool thing that I bought, but we don't put, and this is where it came from. And I think that's the part we miss. And that's a pretty easy part to do, but we forget. And I am trying to work really hard on remembering that more and better because I'll admit I'm guilty of it. And it's a really easy thing to do when you're sharing your excitement over this great new thing that you got. Tell people where you got it. Here's a link. Here's a link to their page. Here's a link to their website. Here's where you can get this. Because I guarantee you it'll help the artist a lot and they will appreciate it a ton. And that's the important thing. And that's why you see people, artists, saying, if you like this, tell people. If you like my page, if you like my song, if you like my poem, tell people. Because that gives them additional publicity, number one. And also, it gives them a little more social capital. Hey, people like me. They're, I'm interesting. I'm doing good work. I'm worth your attention. All that stuff matters more than you maybe know. So help spread the word. It makes a difference. The next one, make a donation, is something that I just recently started asking people to do myself. And I will tell you this. When I asked for people to start donating to support my work, I had a lot of trepidation about it. I was very I'm a little uncomfortable with this. I don't know how I feel about asking, but I know that I like what I'm doing and I want to keep doing it. And I also know that I want to have control of it. And I didn't know if having a sponsor would make that happen, would allow that to happen. So I tried to look for other ways. Okay, how can I make this generate some income without having a sponsor and having to be beholden to subscriber numbers or whatever it is, or having someone who maybe wants to meddle in the format or the content or the subject matter, which I don't really want to do. I don't want to turn this into an advertisement for other people. I don't really want to turn it into an advertisement for me, honestly. I just want it to be what it is. And maybe I'm too precious about that, and maybe I'm too worried about that. But for me, that's how I feel. So asking people if you like the show, if you watch the show, if you think the show is worthwhile, please support it, made a lot more sense to me. And I picked a couple of options. I use Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee, and people can make a monthly donation or they can make a one-time donation depending on which it is that they want to do. And I will tell you this. If you're a person, if you're a human, but I think especially if you do anything artistic, and for the sake of argument, I'm going to call this artistic, but I also write and I do other things. But if you are someone who does this type of thing, you have days where you wonder if it's worth it. You have days where you feel like nobody is watching, nobody's paying attention, nobody cares. Why am I bothering with this every week? What's the point of it? It's, what other than feeding my ego, what is this doing? And I can guarantee you almost every artist has had at least one moment like that, where they wonder if it's worth it, where they wonder if anybody is paying attention, if anybody cares, if if there's a point to what they're doing. And when I asked for donations and people stepped up, that answered that question for me in a big way. And it wasn't only the fact that they were pledging some of their dollars to help support the show. It was the fact that they cared enough to do that, that this meant enough to them, or they thought it had enough value that they were willing to support it. And that's really what donations do. And the funniest part of this whole thing is, like I said, Patreon is one of the options that I have for people to be able to donate. And I was looking at my Patreon balance and I was like, there's less money here than there should be. What happened? And then I looked a little closer and I went, oh, I'm supporting some people on Patreon myself, people that I think are doing good things. One of them is a young lady named Alexis Doll, and I will put a link to her YouTube channel up on the Women in Business Facebook page after this is over. She's amazing. She lives in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and she does these great videos about history and geology and science, and she's amazing. And I found her and I immediately went, this is someone who needs to keep doing what she's doing. And she has a Patreon, and I support her every month because I think she's doing amazing things. So in a fun way, the donations that people make to me are also going to support other artists because I support a few people on Patreon because I think they're doing good work. So your donation can be a reverberating cycle of us all supporting each other, which I kind of love. And don't underestimate how much difference even a few dollars can make. If you don't feel like, well, I can't donate $50 a month, I can't donate $25 a month, donate $3, donate $5. Yes, it is about the money. I'm not going to be disingenuous and say, oh, the money doesn't matter. Of course, the money matters. You wouldn't do it otherwise. But the money is closely tied to the support, to the fact that somebody cares enough to give some of their hard-earned money to support what you're doing. It's huge validation. And I don't know an artist alive that doesn't need to be validated every once in a while. We all say we don't, but really, honestly, we do need to know that people care about what we're doing, even if it's just one person. Even if it's just somebody that says, I liked your story, I liked your poem, I liked your song, I liked that thing you made. I thought it was really cool. I'd like to see how you did it. That kind of stuff is huge when you're an artist because a lot of creating is done alone. A lot of creating is done in your head and in your silence. And a lot of artists, which we're going to talk about in the next little point I have been told at some point in their lives that art is not a viable career option, that art is never going to make them any money, that they're going to be starving in a garret, that the chances of them ever making it big and making a living are pretty slim. And that's sad, but that's how we think of it. So supporting the arts with your dollars is huge for the artist and just to keep the art going. There are many, many ways you can spend your money and you can invest your money. I know that. I just hope one of the ways that you pick is supporting an artist you know, or supporting an artist that you've seen that's doing good work and you like their stuff. And keep in mind too that donations don't have to be Patreon or buy me a coffee. You could go to a concert. You could, buy something from a person that makes art. you could commission something. There's a lot of things that you can do. And donations don't have to be to specific people either. You can also donate to support schools or create a scholarship for an artist to take a class. There's a lot of things you can do in that sense too. So just think about it. If you have the money available, make a donation. Now, the next thing that I said we're going to talk about, and I feel very strongly about this one, I have to say. Take their art seriously. And what I mean by this is artist is still not necessarily considered a viable career choice. When I was 6, I wrote my first story. And I will admit it was not a great story. It was about a walking, talking taco, but I was 6. But that was when the penny dropped for me that the books that I was reading were written by someone, that this was a thing that people could do. And forever after, that was the thing I said I wanted to do. I never said I wanted to be a teacher. I never wanted to be a nurse. I never wanted to be a scientist. I never wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to be a writer. That was my thing. Now, that didn't go over huge with most of my family. And I understand why. I understand that for them, writing wasn't a viable career choice. In their minds, you didn't make a living being a writer. You couldn't support yourself being a writer. The odds against being a best-selling writer like a Stephen King or a Daniel Steele or, pick George R.R. Martin or whoever you want to pick were huge and probably stacked against me. So it wasn't a realistic career choice in their eyes. So it was always like, oh yeah, she's good. She writes well, but she's going to go to school to be a journal, to write for a newspaper, or she's going to go to be a foreign correspondent or whatever. And it was the same thing with singing. I sang until college. And it was the same thing. It was always, oh yeah, she's good, but it's not a viable career choice. Now, that's not to say that they didn't support me. I had private voice lessons. I did, I was on the school yearbook, and I worked for our local newspaper who had a kind of intern program. So they did, but it was always kind of in the sense of, well, this is a fun thing that you do, but it's not something you're going to do for a living. Now, as it turned out, every job I've ever had has had some aspect of writing in it. Every job. And even if it wasn't what I was hired for, somehow it snuck in and I started doing it because that's what I love to do. Now, my degrees are in marketing and business because that was the practical way to sneak writing in. And by the time I finished my degrees, by the time I went to get my degrees, I was older and I was working full time and I was trying to be practical. So I got degrees in marketing and business. And they were practical. I make my living mostly writing now, but I also make my living marketing, which is really writing. But I wonder sometimes if more people in my childhood had taken my writing seriously, where I would be now. And that's not to say that all my family didn't take me seriously. I had a grandmother, my maternal grandmother, who firmly believed that I was going to write the best bestseller the world had ever seen, and told me that forever. Either that or I was going to be Barbara Walters, or maybe both. I don't know. But it was all... She definitely supported me. She definitely believed in my dreams. And I get the urge to tell someone who wants to be an artist, who wants to be a painter, who wants to be a poet, who wants to, make amazing embroidered dresses or whatever it is, I get the urge to say, maybe you need to be a little more practical. Maybe you need to be a little more smart about what you're doing. But I think that's wrong because we need art too. And I think there are ways to do art and support yourself. And honestly, I don't think I'd be happy if writing wasn't some part of my life. Now, granted, mostly these days I'm writing for industry magazines, but it's still writing. I'm still putting ideas down on paper. And I am working on various projects that may turn into books. Who knows? There's some issues I need to get over before that happens, but it's possible. And I think I'll probably write until I'm no longer here, just because that's what I do. And I think most people who paint or who write in some form or who sing or who dance or who do whatever it is that they do that's artistic will do that and would do that regardless of whether they made a dime for it or not. I mean, I have notebooks of stuff that I've written that nobody ever paid me for, that probably nobody ever will pay me for. But I needed to write it, so I did. The best thing that you can do, especially if you have children who want to be artists, take it seriously. Support it. Nurture it. Maybe it doesn't pan out to be anything. And yes, the odds against, if you're a singer, the odds against becoming Kelly Clarkson are pretty small. If you're a painter, the odds against becoming Georgia O'Keeffe are pretty small. If you're a dancer, the odds against becoming Baryshnikov are pretty small, or Bob Fosse or Gwen Verdon or whoever you want to. So yeah, the odds might be huge that you become a huge star and everybody knows your name. But that doesn't mean you still can't make good art. And that doesn't mean that you still can't take joy in the art that you make. It doesn't have to be an either or proposition. And I got to say, as a kid who was an artistic kid, having people support that and having people validate that and having people tell you that it's possible means everything. Everything. And, if your kid likes pottery, take them to a pottery studio. If they like writing, find them a kid's writing class. If they like dancing, put them in dance class or cheer or whatever it is. If they want to embroider, find them a local embroiderer that maybe they can hang out in the shop. Take it seriously, nurture it. Because even if they don't become Stephen King or Gwen Verdon or whoever, they're still going to have something amazing in their lives that's going to bring value to their lives and make them happy. And ultimately, I think that's way more important than whether you're making $1 million off the art that you make or the art that you do, in my opinion. And, like I said, I make at least part of my living off writing now. I'm lucky that way. But I still write a lot of stuff that nobody's ever paid me for and probably never will. Just because, and yeah, largely some of it is crap and that's why nobody would ever pay me for it. But some of it is just things that I want to write and I haven't figured out who the audience is for yet. But it needed to come out of me, so it did. Take that stuff seriously. Support it. It matters. And it will mean so much to the person who is making the art. Trust me on this. And like I said, especially if you have artistic kids, support them. And this light is driving me nuts because I turned on the lights, the artificial lights, because it was dark outside. And of course, as soon as I turned the artificial lights on, the sun came out. So now everything's going wacky and it's really annoying me. But anyway, so the next thing that you can do, and this is different than subscribing to online platforms, and it's also a little different than helping to spread the word about their work. Review. And the reason why this is different than helping to spread the word about their work is a review is I don't want to use this word, but it's the only word I can think of. It's a critique in a way. It's saying, this is what I liked about this piece of art. This is what I didn't like. This is what was great. This was maybe what was not so great. And it's basically validating what the artist did, number one. And it's also providing information that might allow other people that are trying to decide whether they want this piece of art, whether they want to invest or support or buy whatever it is, this thing that you're reviewing, it gives them some information. And you'll see this a lot. I belong to a couple of writers groups, and one of the not controversies, but one of the conversations, I guess, that happens a lot is the value of reviews and how annoying it is when people read your work and say, "Oh, I really love that," but they won't go review it. And I understand why not, because writing a review is a little bit of work. And especially if you don't think you're a great writer or you don't understand the value of a good review, you might think, I don't really want to do that. It takes up time and I'm not the best writer and I'm not the best speller and I just really don't want to do that. Here's why that stuff matters. Reviews are, number one, a way for people to decide whether or not they want to buy the thing that you reviewed. Reviews are also highly influential with a lot of the sites. I know Amazon, if you buy books from Amazon, they take reviews into account, and things that have a lot of 5-star reviews will get presented first, will get shown more often. Etsy does something similar, I believe. Facebook has the same thing. It's just reviews get weight. Like I was talking about earlier, a lot of the social media sites and certainly Google now are doing a lot with reputation and are placing a lot of weight on reputation. Reviews are part of reputation. Reviews are part of letting people know whether you're trustworthy, whether your stuff is good, whether other people liked it, and everybody's taking that into account. Buyers are taking that into account. Social media sites, Google, websites, all that kind of stuff. They're all taking it into account. So one of the biggest favors that you can do an artist, if you like their work, is review it. If they have a Facebook page, go and leave a good review. If they're a writer or a singer or an instrumentalist, go and leave a review of their song or their album or their book or their poem, whatever it is. Leave a review and, do your damnedest to make it a good one, because it matters, because it counts, and because it helps give that piece of art a little bit more of a spotlight. And I get it. I don't like doing reviews either. And I'll put my hand up to say, I don't always. I don't do them as much as I should, even though I know the value of them. And it's honestly mostly just laziness sometimes. Mostly it's just, I don't really want to be bothered, or I tell myself that I don't have time, or whatever it is. And it doesn't take that much time to write a 4 or 5 sentence review. It doesn't take that much time to do that. And the value to the artist who created the work might be incalculable. Incalculable? I don't even know how to say that. Could be very big. Let's just put it that way. So take the time. If you really like a piece of art, review it. If you had a really good experience with an artist, leave a nice review on their page. Let other people know. You never know, but your review might be the thing that spurs someone else to buy. So take the time. It doesn't take that much of your time, and the help it could be to the person who created the art is huge. So it's worth doing. And I'm going to take this little tidbit of the show to heart myself, and I'm going to start trying to review more. and be more aware that I need to leave reviews because I think it's important. The next way that you can support art and artists, and this is another one that's kind of a sore spot with me for the reasons that I told you about earlier, make being an artist a viable career choice. There was, and this is some years back probably now, but there was a major clothing chain that had for a while a shirt that said artist on the front, and artist had been crossed out, and underneath it said president. And the whole theory behind that, I think, was that, okay, being president is better than being an artist, which is debatable. But anyway, a lot of people got up in arms about that because it wasn't astronaut crossed off president or lawyer crossed off president. It was artist crossed off and then president. Like, artist was somehow a lesser career choice. Now, granted, you could make the case that almost anything is a lesser career choice than president. I don't know. That's an argument for another day. But there is a prevailing theory in our culture in general that being an artist is perhaps not a valid career choice, that being an artist is a hobby, that being an artist is something that you do for fun, that being an artist is... I'm laughing at Cindy's comment. Cindy says, whoops, let's see if this will pop up. Some artists don't care about mine or your reviews. My son's name is Artist, so we like shirts that say artist. Okay, there you go. But for those of you that aren't named Artist, make being an artist a viable career choice, because there are enough people that will tell someone who says, I want to be a painter, or I want to be a poet, or I want to be a writer, or a dancer, or a singer, or I want to make, really cool embroidered clothing, or I want to do amazing sublimated signs or wind spinners or whatever. And they'll say, you can't make a living doing that. It's too hard. It's too competitive. It's too whatever. Make it a valid career choice. Make it the same as I want to be a lawyer, or I want to be a doctor, or I want to be an astronaut. Make it the same as any of those things. So, and apparently Cindy's son Artist is an artist, so that worked out. But make it a viable career choice, as Cindy's son Artist did, who became an artist. Because there are enough people who are going to tell a budding artist that they're not going to make it. Don't be one of them. Be somebody who says, yeah, I want to see what you can do. And you can be realistic and still be supportive. You can let them know that, yeah, the arts are tough, and that sometimes you don't make a lot of money doing that. And sometimes you may have to work at a bar, or work in a store, or wait tables, or do whatever while you're pursuing your dream. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. If this is really what you want, if you really feel strongly about it, then follow your dream. And also, you can point out that there are ways to be an artist and support what you want to do. You can teach. You can perform. There are a number of ways that you can keep yourself fed and housed and clothed while you're pursuing your art. It doesn't have to be an either-or situation. It doesn't have to be, I'm pursuing my art, so I have to live in a garret and starve and freeze. It doesn't have to be that way. But I think more people need to take that attitude, and it's especially something we need to tell kids. That it doesn't have to be this impossible dream, that you can be an artist even if you're not a huge star, or even if you're not selling paintings for millions of dollars. You can be an artist if you're just making little paintings and selling them at your local craft bazaar. You can be a singer if you're just singing at karaoke. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be, you're only an artist if you're winning awards and making $1 million. It doesn't have to be that way, and it shouldn't be that way. We should value the art and the artist for what they're creating, and not for how much we're paying for it to consume it. And so I think that's something that's really important. Make it a viable career choice, especially when you're talking to kids. Don't just tell them you have to be a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher or a scientist or whatever. Tell them that they can be a painter, that they can be a sculptor, that they can be a dancer, or they can be a poet, or they can be, whatever it is that they want to be that's artistic, because that matters. And finally, the last thing, and not a moment too soon, because boy, my voice is just going south here. Find your inner artist. Everybody has one. And like, not everybody is good at every art, which kind of annoys me because my grandmother was a painter. She painted beautiful landscapes and animal pictures, and she was amazing at it. And I always wanted that talent. I can't draw a straight line with a ruler. My talent is words, and visual art is, I'm horrible at it. But I discovered that I could make art with words. And that made a difference. And I think everybody has an inner artist. And we need to recognize that. And we also need to make it okay to make art that isn't great, art that's just fun, art that we love making for the sake of making it. Not everything has to be a masterpiece. Not everything has to sell for $1 million. Not everything has to sell for $5. It could just be something that you paint that you hang up in your bedroom because you like it. I think we need to stop making it about the money. Money is great. Don't get me wrong. I like money. I would like a lot of money, honestly. But I would write if nobody ever paid me $1. I would. And obviously I did this show for quite a long time and nobody was paying me anything. And I was doing it because I thought it mattered that I did it. And I think that's why a lot of artists do what they do. So I think everybody needs to find their inner artist so they understand that drive and that motivation. That's all I'm going to say. And that is the show for today. I went a little longer than I had planned, as usual, because we all know I can talk. And I just want to say thank you to everyone, and also a really quick reminder that in a couple of hours I ate it, I think. Oh, nope. There it is. At this link, we will be opening registration for Virtual Applique Getaway. $25. A huge slate of classes, some amazing instructors, plus a virtual goodie bag that's just chock full of amazing stuff, free designs and discount codes and all sorts of stuff. You get all this for $25. So, Applique Getaway, go and register for virtual. It opens on November 15th. Registration opens today at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. You should go and register. Totally, it's going to be worth it. Thank you, everybody. I will see you. Cindy, registration for virtual will be open right up until virtual starts, and maybe even after virtual starts. So registration opens today, which is September 21st, and it'll be open through November 15th, and maybe even after we have opening day, because the videos are available through the first week of February. So thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it so much. Tune in next week when something else will happen. I have an idea for a topic, but I'm also talking to some people, so I may have a guest. We will see what happens. I appreciate your support more than you know. And thank you, Cindy. I just saw that you bought me a coffee or 2 or 3. And I so appreciate the support. I appreciate the support of everyone that is supporting me on Buy Me a Coffee, that is supporting me on Patreon. You guys are the best, and it means so much to this artist. You have no idea. I will see you all next week.